A weathered wooden box emerges from melting ice, its surface scored with desperate scratches. Inside, a water-damaged journal bears a final entry. "We can hear them outside. They're not human. If anyone finds this..." The writing trails off into a violent streak of ink. The Arctic wind howls across the Svalbard archipelago, carrying ice crystals that sting the exposed skin of Dr. Mila Bennett's face. She adjusts her protective goggles and continues carefully excavating what the retreating glacier has begun to reveal. It's June 2014, and the research team's excitement grows with each passing hour. What started as a routine climate study has transformed into something far more compelling. "Leo, I need you over here," Mila calls to her research partner. Leo Griffin trudges through the snow, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "What have you got?" "Something man-made. Definitely not geological." Mila's gloved hands work delicately. Around the object partially exposed by the ice melt, the corner of a wooden crate. 3 hours later, as the midnight sun hangs low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the ice field, the research team has fully extracted the crate. The wood is remarkably preserved by the cold, though water damage has affected portions of the contents. Leo's voice trails off as he carefully lifts a leather-bound journal from the crate. "Mila, there are photographs. And look at the date. March 17th, 1959. Mila's research into Arctic expeditions kicks into overdrive. "The Ericsson expedition," she whispers. "Leo, this belonged to Henrik Eriksson's team. They disappeared without a trace." The story had become something of a legend in Arctic exploration circles. A 6-person team with 8 sled dogs had ventured into one of Svalbard's uncharted regions to document wildlife patterns. Their last radio communication mentioned unusual findings, then nothing. Search parties found no trace. Until now. Back at their research station, Mila carefully photographs each page of the journal before attempting to read it. The handwriting belongs to Aurora Hawkins, the expedition's biologist. The early entries are methodical, scientific observations interspersed with personal reflections. "Listen to this," Mila says, reading aloud. "February 12th, 1959. Henrik believes we're being followed. James thinks it's polar bears, but the tracks don't match any known species. I've never seen Henrik this unsettled." Leo peers over her shoulder, at the journal. "Keep going." As Mila turns the pages, the neat handwriting grows increasingly erratic. Observations about weather and wildlife give way to descriptions of strange sounds in the night, unexplained equipment failures, and growing tensions among the team. "February 28th, Mila reads. "The dogs won't stop barking at night. Ethan found unusual markings on the perimeter stakes this morning. Henrik forbids anyone from venturing alone beyond camp boundaries." The final pages detail a descent into paranoia and fear. The last entry, dated March 17th, is smeared and partially illegible. "We can hear them outside. They're not human. If anyone finds this..." The sentence remains unfinished. That night, Mila wakes to the sound of scratching outside her cabin door. The wind, surely. But when she rises to check, she notices something in the snow outside her window. A set of tracks, unlike any she's seen before. Mila stands frozen at the window, her breath fogging the glass. The tracks outside disappear into the darkness beyond the research station's perimeter lights. They're oddly spaced, too wide for a polar bear, too distinct for wind-blown snow. Her scientific mind races through possibilities, but finds no satisfying explanation. "Leo," she calls, not taking her eyes off the window. No response from her colleague's adjacent room. Grabbing her parka and a flashlight, Mila steps into the corridor. The research station is eerily quiet. Only the hum of equipment and the occasional creak of the structure settling against the cold fill the silence. She knocks on Leo's door, then tries the handle. It's unlocked. His room is empty, bed untouched. Leo? She calls louder, moving toward the main lab where they'd been examining the journal hours earlier. The crate sits on the examination table, but Leo is nowhere to be found. The journal lies open to a page she hadn't reached before, a rough sketch showing bizarre, elongated footprints alongside normal human boot impressions for scale. The footprints, in the drawing match, those outside her window. A door slams somewhere in the building, making her jump. Mila follows the sound to find Leo in the communications room, his face illuminated by the blue glow of a computer screen. "You need to see this," he says without looking up. "I've been cross-referencing the journal with historical records of the region. On screen is an article dated September 1938. Soviet mining expedition reports unusual phenomena at abandoned camp. The black and white photograph shows a desolate outpost with strange markings carved into the wooden walls. That symbol," Mila points to a particular marking, "it appears in Aurora's journal too." Leo nods grimly. "And that's not all." He pulls up another document, a classified military report from 1946 that had since been declassified. After World War II, a Norwegian reconnaissance team found an abandoned German weather station. The report mentions evidence of conflict with unknown hostile elements and inexplicable tracks surrounding the perimeter. Same location. Within 20 kilometers of where Eriksson's team disappeared. Leo runs a hand through his hair. "Mila, 3 separate incidents spanning decades, all with similar patterns. The implications hang heavy in the air between them. Something had been stalking human visitors to this region for years before claiming Eriksson's team." "We should contact the mainland," Mila says, reaching for the satellite phone. Leo's expression darkens. "I've been trying. Communications are down, probably the storm. Outside, the wind has picked up dramatically, howling around the research station like a living thing. The building shudders against the onslaught." "Storm?" Mila checks the weather instruments. "There wasn't supposed to be anything severe tonight." "It came out of nowhere," Leo confirms. "We're cut off until it passes." Mila feels a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. "We need to wake the others." They rouse the rest of their small team, Olivia Barnes, the climate specialist, and Henry Freeman, their logistics coordinator. Within minutes, all 4 researchers huddle in the main lab, staring at the journal and the strange discoveries Leo has made. "I vote we pack up and get out at first light," Henry says firmly. "We can't," Olivia counters. "The helicopter isn't scheduled for another week." "Then we radio for emergency extraction," Henry insists. Leo shakes his head. "Communications are still down." A sudden scratching sound drags everyone's attention to the ceiling. Something moves across the roof, something heavy. "That's no storm," Mila whispers. The lights flicker once, twice, then die completely, plunging them into darkness. In the sudden darkness, 4 flashlight beams cut through the air like searchlights. The scratching above their heads stops momentarily, then resumes with greater intensity. "The generator," Henry says, already moving toward the door. "I'll check it." "Not alone," Mila insists, following him with her light. "Nobody goes anywhere alone." They navigate the darkened corridors, flashlights throwing distorted shadows against the walls. The main generator room is at the back of the station, separated from the living quarters by a short, covered walkway. Outside, the wind screams across the ice. Henry pushes the heavy door open, and they step into the relative warmth of the generator room. The machine sits silent, though it should be running. "That's impossible," Henry mutters, examining the control panel. "It's been manually turned off." "Could someone have hit the emergency shut-off by accident?" Mila asks, scanning the room with her flashlight. "No." Henry's voice is certain. "You need a key for that, and I have it right here." He pats his pocket, then freezes. The key is missing. Their eyes meet in the beam of the flashlights, a silent understanding passing between them. Someone had deliberately cut the power. Back in the main lab, Leo and Olivia have rigged up emergency lighting, battery-powered lanterns casting a warm glow over the expedition crate. Olivia has discovered something new. There was a hidden compartment, she explains, showing them a false bottom in the crate. Inside lies a leather pouch containing several photographs and a small carved object that resembles a primitive doll. Made of bone, the photographs show the Ericsson team members smiling confidently at the beginning of their expedition. 6 faces full of hope and determination. Henrik Ericsson, the leader, Aurora Hawkins, the biologist, James Morris, the geologist, Elijah Vincent, the photographer, Lillian Freeman, the meteorologist, and Jack Larson, their guide. They look so alive, Myla whispers, studying Aurora's face. The woman whose journal they've been reading suddenly feels real, no longer just handwriting on aged paper. The final photograph shows something different, a standing stone partially covered in ice, marked with symbols similar to those they saw in the Soviet mining camp documentation. These are throughout the journal too, Leo says, flipping through pages to show similar sketches. Aurora became obsessed with them. She thought they were some kind of warning. Warning about what? Henry asks. Before anyone can answer, a new sound cuts through the howling wind, the distant but unmistakable howl of a dog. That's impossible, Olivia says. There are no dogs at this station. The nearest settlement is over 100 kilometers away. The Ericsson expedition had 8 sled dogs, Mila reminds them, her voice barely audible. Leo checks the date on his watch. It's March 17th, the same date as Aurora's final journal entry, 55 years ago. The dog howls again, closer this time. Then another joins in, and another until the night is filled with their cries. We need weapons, Henry says, moving toward the equipment locker. Wait, Mila stops him, picking up the bone figurine from the crate. Look at this. Under closer examination, the doll-like object isn't a human figure as they'd first thought. It depicts something elongated, with too many joints in its limbs. The overhead scratching suddenly stops. For several heartbeats, the only sound is their breathing. Then a heavy thud against the main entrance door makes them all jump. Another thud. The metal door dents inward. It's trying to get in, Olivia whispers. The dented door holds against 3 more thunderous impacts, then falls silent. The researchers stand frozen, weapons improvised from tools clutched in white-knuckled hands. Minutes pass, marked only by the racing of their hearts. Maybe it gave up, Olivia whispers hopefully. A new sound answers her, the creak of floorboards. From the far side of the station, whatever was outside has found another way in. The sample storage room, Leo realizes. The exterior door isn't as reinforced. Henry takes charge. We need to barricade ourselves in here until morning. At first light, we make for the emergency shelter on the ridge. It has its own communication system. They work quickly, dragging furniture against the lab door. Myla continues examining Aurora's journal, searching for clues about what happened in 1959 and what might be happening now. Listen to this entry from February 18th, she says. Henrik and Elijah discovered something embedded in the glacier today. Not fossils, something manufactured. Henrik thinks it's thousands of years old, but it looks almost mechanical. The symbols around the excavation site match those we've been finding on rocks throughout the region. Elijah took photographs, but Henrik ordered him not to include them in our official documentation. So they found something in the ice, Leo says, looking over her shoulder. Something they weren't supposed to find. Myla flips through more pages. There's a gap after that. Aurora doesn't write again until March 2nd, almost 2 weeks later. Then, we should never have taken it from the ice. The noises started that very night. Now the dogs won't stop howling, and something follows us when we leave camp. I've tried to convince Henrik to report our findings, but he's determined to understand what we've discovered before sharing it with the world. James believes it's a weapons cache, possibly Soviet. I'm no longer certain it's human in origin at all. A low growling from beyond their barricaded door interrupts her reading. Not a dog, something deeper, more guttural. We need to understand what we're dealing with, Mila insists, her voice barely a whisper. The journal is the key. While the others reinforce their barricade, Mila and Leo pore over the recovered materials, arranging them chronologically. Aurora's increasingly frantic notes, photographs of strange markings, the bone figurine with its unnatural proportions. "Look at this," Leo says suddenly, holding up a photo next to one they took earlier that day. "The ice has retreated nearly a kilometer since 1959. Climate change," Olivia confirms from across the room. "That's why we're here, remember? To document the glacial retreat." But what if that's the point? Mila's mind races ahead. What if the ice was covering something? Something that's now being exposed? The implications silence them all. Whatever the Ericsson expedition discovered might be just the beginning. Henry, who has been monitoring the windows, suddenly beckons them over. "You need to see this." Outside, in the harsh glow of the exterior emergency lights, dark figures move across the snow. Their gait is wrong, limbs too long, joints bending in impossible directions. Behind them pad several large wolf-like shapes, dogs, but with something profoundly wrong about their proportions. "Those can't be the expedition's dogs," Olivia whispers. "Not after 55 years. You don't think time works the same way for them?" Mila says, clutching Aurora's journal. "Look at how they move, like the figure in the carving." One of the creatures stops directly beneath the light, its face tilting upward toward their window. What they see freezes the blood in their veins. A face almost human, stretched and distorted, with too many eyes arranged in an asymmetrical pattern. It smiles, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Then, deliberately, it raises a grotesquely elongated finger and points to the west, toward the glacier, where the Ericsson expedition made their discovery. Dawn breaks with agonizing slowness over the research station. No one has slept. The creatures disappeared. Shortly after their chilling display, melting into the darkness beyond the perimeter lights. Only their tracks remain, circling the building like ritualistic markings. "We need to make a decision," Henry says, his face haggard from the sleepless night. "The emergency shelter is 8 kilometers south. If we leave now, we can make it before dark." "But that thing pointed west," Leo argues, "toward the glacier, where the Ericsson team found whatever they found." "You can't seriously be suggesting we go there." Olivia's voice rises with incredulity. "I'm suggesting it might be the only way to understand what's happening," Leo counters. "Look at these patterns. They're not random." He gestures to the photographs of the symbols, which he's arranged in sequences. It's communication, a warning maybe, or instructions. Mila, who has been quietly studying the journal's final pages, looks up. Aurora thought the same thing. She was trying to decipher them before. She doesn't finish the sentence. Henry shakes his head firmly. This isn't a research expedition anymore. It's a survival situation. We go south to the emergency shelter, call for extraction, and let professionals handle this. The debate continues until they reach a grim compromise. Henry and Olivia will head south to the emergency shelter, while Mila and Leo will investigate the glacier site where the Ericsson team made their discovery. Both teams will carry emergency beacons and rendezvous at the shelter by nightfall. This is a mistake, Henry warns as they divide their supplies. We shouldn't separate. We'll be careful, Mila promises. But something's been waiting under that ice for who knows how long. Now it's exposed. If we leave without understanding what we're dealing with, we might be condemning others to face it unprepared. They part ways under the pale Arctic sun, each team following their chosen path across the frozen landscape. Mila and Leo trudge westward, following coordinates extrapolated from Aurora's journal and the old photographs. "Do you think they're still alive?" Leo asks after they've been walking for an hour. Mila knows he's not talking about Henry and Olivia. The Eriksson team, after 55 years. She considers the unnatural movements of the creatures they saw last night. "I don't think they're alive in any way we'd recognize." The glacier looms before them, a wall of ancient ice, now retreating to reveal secrets long buried. According to their calculations, they're approaching the area where Henrik and Elijah made their discovery. "It should be just ahead," Leo says, consulting the GPS. The ice has retreated about 50 meters from where they would have been standing. They crest a small ridge and stop, staring in disbelief at what lies before them. The newly exposed ground isn't barren as they expected. Instead, geometric shapes protrude from the earth, metallic structures too regular to be natural, yet clearly ancient, their surfaces etched with familiar symbols. "It's a facility of some kind," Mila whispers, approaching cautiously, "built into the bedrock, covered by the glacier until now." "Look," Leo points to a dark opening, an entrance revealed by the melting ice. Before they can discuss their next move, their radio crackles to life. Henry's voice comes through in broken, static-filled bursts. "Coming back, not heading south, following us." Then Olivia's voice, clearer but filled with terror. "They're herding us toward the glacier. Don't go inside. They want you to—" The transmission cuts off abruptly, replaced by a high-pitched whine that forces them to rip off their headsets. When they look up, they're no longer alone. Standing between them and the way back to the station are three of the elongated figures, their impossible limbs silhouetted against the snow. Behind them, moving with unnatural synchronicity, pad the twisted forms of what were once sled dogs. The creatures make no move to attack. They simply stand, blocking the path of retreat, leaving only one direction open to the researchers. Forward, into the darkness of the ancient doorway. "They're herding us," Mila whispers, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "Just like they did with Henry and Olivia." Leo's hand finds hers, squeezing tight. "We have a choice." But they both know they don't. Not really. Behind them, the creatures wait with inhuman patience. The message is clear. Forward into the unknown, or face what the Eriksson team faced 55 years ago. "We need light," Mila says decisively, pulling a flare from her pack. The creatures watch, but make no move to stop them as they approach the dark entrance. The flare's crimson glow reveals a descending passage carved into the bedrock, its walls lined with the same metallic material they saw outside. The symbols here are more complex, arranged in spiraling patterns that seem to pull at the eye, creating an illusion of movement. "These aren't just symbols," Leo murmurs, running his gloved fingers over the engravings. "It's a writing system. Look how they repeat with variations, like conjugations or syntax." Mila checks her satellite phone. No signal. Their radio emits only static. "We're cut off down here. If something happens—" Leo nods grimly. 1 hour. We explore for 1 hour, then we make a break for it, creatures or not. The passage slopes gently downward, leading them deeper beneath the glacier. The temperature strangely begins to rise. Soon they're shedding their outer layers, confused by the unexpected warmth. "Geothermal activity?" Mila suggests, though she doesn't sound convinced. After 20 minutes of careful descent, the passage opens into a vast chamber that steals their breath away. The space is enormous, its ceiling lost in darkness above, its boundaries stretching beyond the reach of their lights. But it's what fills the chamber that freezes them in place. Technology, ancient yet unmistakable. Curved structures of unknown metal rise from the floor, like the ribs of some massive creature. Between them, Objects that resemble control panels stand covered in dust. Along the walls, what can only be described as stasis chambers. Dozens of them are arranged in concentric circles. Most are empty, their transparent fronts clouded with age. But 3 contain shapes, human shapes. "Oh my God," Mila breathes, approaching the nearest chamber. Using her sleeve, she wipes away decades of dust from its surface. Inside, perfectly preserved, is a man whose face matches the photographs of Henrik Eriksson. His eyes are closed, his expression peaceful as if sleeping, but the chamber around him is marked with the same symbols they've been following, and tubes connect to his body at various points. "He's still alive," Leo says in disbelief, pointing to monitoring equipment showing slow but steady life signs. After 55 years. The second chamber contains Aurora Hawkins, the author of their journal. The third holds James Morris. Both show the same life signs as Henrik. "Where are the others?" Mila whispers. "There were 6 in the expedition." As if in answer, a sound emerges from the darkness beyond their light's reach, a shuffling, dragging noise, accompanied by the click of claws on stone. Mila raises her flashlight, and the beam catches movement at the chamber's edge. 3 figures approach. Their proportions are wrong, limbs elongated and joints twisted at impossible angles, just like the creatures outside. But as they step into the light, Mila and Leo recoil in horror and recognition. These were human once. Their distorted faces still hold traces of the people from the expedition photographs, Elijah Vincent, Lillian Freeman, and Jack Larson, but their bodies have been changed, transformed into something between human and other, the missing team. "Members," Leo whispers. Elijah, or what was once Elijah, opens his mouth. What emerges isn't quite language, but a series of clicks and whistles that somehow form words in their minds. "You found her journal. Good. We've been waiting for someone to understand." "Understand what?" Mila asks, fighting the urge to flee. "What we discovered, what we became, what's been waiting under the ice." The transformed Jack gestures toward a central structure they hadn't noticed before, a pulsing column of light that seems to bend reality around it. "It showed us everything. The truth about this world, about time, about what lies between spaces." Behind them, from the passage they entered through, comes the sound of more creatures descending. Heavy footfalls and the panting of twisted dogs echo against the ancient walls. "They're coming to welcome you," the thing that was once Lillian communicates. Just as they welcomed us, the central column pulses brighter, its light reaching toward them like tentacles of pure energy. "Don't fight it." Elijah's distorted face contorts into what might be a smile. "It only hurts if you resist." The light tentacles hover, pulsing with otherworldly energy, reaching toward Mila and Leo, but not quite touching them. The air crackles with ozone and something else, a scent like copper and burnt sugar. "What happened to you?" Mila asks, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She's backing away slowly, pulling Leo with her. The thing that was once Elijah tilts its head at an impossible angle. "We were chosen to understand, to translate, to prepare." "Prepare for what?" Leo demands. "For them, the ones who built this place. They left when the ice came, but they always planned to return when the world warmed again." A chill that has nothing to do with the Arctic seeps into Mila's bones. "Climate change, the melting glaciers." Yes, the word stretches in their minds. Like a hiss, the awakening was always coming. We simply accelerated it. More creatures pour into the chamber from the passage, the ones they saw outside the research station. Up close, their alien nature becomes more apparent. They were never human, never terrestrial. Their bodies move with fluid, grace despite their wrong proportions, as if gravity affects them differently. Mila's scientific mind races through possibilities even as fear threatens to overwhelm her. "You've been waiting all this time?" 55 years? Time moves differently for us now. Lillian's transformed body communicates. For us, it has been moments, heartbeats. And the dogs? Leo asks, noticing the twisted canine shape slinking into the chamber. Test subjects. Like us, but simpler. Minds, simpler transformations. Mila edges toward the stasis chambers, containing the 3 preserved expedition members. And them, Henrik, Aurora, James, why are they kept? A sound like laughter emanates from Jack's distorted form. Insurance, leverage in case others came looking. They're hostages, Leo realizes aloud. They're waiting, Elijah corrects, for the right moment to join us. The alien creatures have formed a circle around them now, closing off any route of escape. The tendrils of light from the central column pulse more insistently. What do you want from us? Mila asks, though she fears she already knows the answer. To join, to help. The ones who built this place left guardians to prepare for their return. We are those guardians now, but we need interpreters, those who understand your world as it is today. You want us to help aliens invade Earth? Leo's incredulity breaks. Through his fear, not invade, reclaim. This was their world first, millions of years before humans. They seeded the planet, then left when the climate shifted. Now they return to continue their work. Mila's mind connects the pieces, the ancient facility, the symbols, the transformations. These beings, they're engineers. They were terraforming Earth. Yes. And now the work continues. The ice retreats. The next phase begins. A new sound echoes through the chamber, a human voice calling their names. Henry, Mila, Leo, are you down there? We followed your tracks. Hope surges, but is quickly extinguished as more of the twisted dog things drag Henry and Olivia into the chamber. Their colleagues are battered but alive, their eyes wide with terror. Run, Henry shouts when he sees them. Don't listen to anything His warning is cut short as one of the creatures places a long, jointed limb against his throat. Choose, Elijah's transformed body communicates. Join us willingly, or we use them first. The process is painful. For those who resist, the light tendrils stretch closer, hovering just inches from their faces now. Mila can feel a strange pull from them, not physical but mental. Ideas and images not her own begin to form in her consciousness. See what we see, Jack's voice whispers in their minds. Know what we know. In that moment, Mila realizes she's still clutching Aurora's journal, the final link to the human woman now suspended in stasis. She flips desperately to the last pages, seeking any clue, any hope. There, hidden in the binding, a folded note slips out, something they missed before. Aurora's handwriting, more controlled than her final entries. If you're reading this, they've lured you too. The stasis controls are their weakness. The sequence is hidden in the symbols. Henrik figured it out too late. Remember, they can't read human language. That's why they need us. The light touches Mila's temple, and her world explodes into visions of stars and vast, unimaginable beings traveling between them. The visions overwhelm Mila's senses. Cosmic, geometries and vast intelligences moving between stars, civilizations rising and falling across millions of years, Earth transformed and retransformed according to designs beyond human comprehension. Her consciousness stretches painfully thin across epochs, threatening to tear apart. Through the maelstrom, a single thread anchors her, the weight of Aurora's journal in her hand. The physical sensation, paper, leather, ink, pulls her back from the abyss of alien memory. You see now, Elijah's distorted voice resonates in her fragmenting mind. You understand our purpose. I see. Mila manages to gasp, fighting to maintain her sense of self. Beside her, Leo has fallen to his knees, his eyes rolled back, mouth open in a silent scream as the light tendrils probe his mind. The creatures believe they're witnessing surrender. They don't notice Mila's fingers working frantically, tracing the symbols in Aurora's journal. The biologist had underlined certain characters throughout her notes, seemingly random at first, but now Mila recognizes the pattern, a code, hidden in plain sight. Henry and Olivia remain restrained by the dog things, but their eyes are alert, watching Mila's subtle movements. Henry gives an almost imperceptible nod. He understands she has a plan. The transformation, Mila forces. Out. Buying time. How does it work? The light reveals truth. Jack's transformed body explains, gesturing to the pulsing column. It rewrites what you are to match what you could be. The pain is temporary. Mila staggers toward the stasis chambers, appearing overwhelmed and disoriented. The creatures allow it, interpreting her movement as submission to their influence. She reaches Aurora's chamber, runs her fingers along the control panel's edge. Why these three, she asks, indicating the preserved expedition members. Why not? Transform them too? Balance, Lillian's distorted form answers. Some must remember the old way to translate for the new. Some must change to understand the builder's will. Perfect equilibrium. Mila's fingers find what she's searching for. A recessed panel beneath Aurora's stasis chamber. As the creatures focus on Leo, who writhes more dramatically under their influence, she slides it open. Inside is exactly what Aurora's notes predicted. A secondary control system with human legible labels. Emergency release. You made a mistake, Mila says suddenly, her voice stronger. You think humans are just translators, tools, but you don't understand what we really are. The alien creatures tilt their heads in unison, their movements unnaturally synchronized. And what are you? Elijah's voice carries a note of curiosity. Mila's thumb hovers over the emergency release. Survivors. She slams the button. Alarms blare. Throughout the chamber, the stasis pods hiss as their sealed environments begin to decompress. The light column flickers violently, its tendrils retracting from Leo as the facility's systems enter emergency protocols. The creatures screech, a sound like metal tearing as their connection to the central column wavers. The dog things release, Henry and Olivia howling in confusion and pain. The exit, Mila shouts above the chaos. Now! Leo scrambles to his feet, disoriented but mobile. Henry and Olivia race toward them, but the transformed expedition members block their path, their elongated limbs thrashing in fury. You cannot stop what is coming, they project collectively, their mental voices a cacophony of rage. The builders return regardless. You've only doomed yourselves. The stasis chambers complete their emergency sequence. The transparent fronts slide open with a hydraulic sigh. For a breathless moment, nothing happens. Then Henrik Eriksson's eyes snap open. After 55 years, in suspended animation, the expedition leader gasps for air, his body convulsing as it remembers how to function independently. Aurora and James follow, their preserved bodies reanimating with shuddering breaths. The creatures shriek and lunge toward the awakening humans, but freeze mid-motion as the facility trembles around them. The light column pulses erratically, sending wild shadows dancing across the ancient walls. What have you done? Elijah's transformed body howls in their minds. Broken the loop, Mila answers, helping Aurora to sit up. The woman's eyes are alert, despite decades of suspension, taking in the situation with remarkable clarity. Aurora figured it out, didn't she? The stasis chambers were powering this place, using human life energy to maintain the beacon. Aurora's first words after 55 years are hoarse but determined. The signal. We have to stop the signal. Henrik, stronger now, points to the central column. Destroy that. It's calling them back. The facility shakes more violently. Cracks appear in the ancient ceiling as systems begin to fail. The alien creatures back away from the awakened expedition members, their movements no longer confident, but erratic, almost fearful. "This whole place is going to collapse," Henry shouts. "We need to move." As they help the awakened expedition members to their feet, Mila notices something incredible. The transformed humans are changing. Without the column's full power, Elijah, Lillian, and Jack's distorted bodies seem to be regressing. Their limbs slowly contract, joints shifting back toward human configurations. The transformation, Leo realizes, it's not permanent without the power source. Hope flares briefly, but the facility gives another violent shudder. A massive section of ceiling crashes down, crushing several of the alien creatures beneath tons of rock and ice. The way out is rapidly disappearing. "Move!" Henrik commands with the authority of someone used to survival situations. Despite decades in stasis, his instincts remain sharp. "Follow the air current." They form a desperate chain through the collapsing chamber, Mila and Leo supporting, Aurora between them, Henry helping James, and Olivia guiding Henrik. The transformed expedition members stagger after them, their bodies continuing to shift and contract as the light column's influence wanes. The original passage is blocked by debris, but Henrik points to a maintenance tunnel revealed by the falling rocks. Cold air rushes from it, a path to the surface. "How do you know this place so well?" Leo asks as they squeeze into the narrow tunnel. 55 years of dreams," Henrik answers grimly. "They kept our minds active while harvesting our energy. I've mapped every centimeter of this facility in my head. Behind them, the alien creatures regroup, flowing over the debris with unnatural grace. The dog things slink after them, their mutated forms able to navigate spaces too small for their masters. The tunnel slopes upward, spiraling toward the surface. Mila realizes it's not a human-designed passage at all, but something more organic, almost, like a massive arterial system within the facility. "What were they?" she asks Aurora, who struggles forward despite her weakened state. "Caretakers," the biologist explains between labored breaths, "left behind when their masters abandoned Earth. During the last ice age, they weren't meant to survive so long without guidance. They evolved, adapted, used whatever they could to maintain the beacon, including us." A howl echoes through the tunnel as the first of the dog things gains on them. Henry turns, wielding a broken metal rod as a makeshift weapon. "Keep going, I'll hold them off." "Not alone," Olivia insists, grabbing a jagged piece of debris. The two researchers brace themselves in the narrow tunnel as the others continue upward. The sounds of desperate struggle echo behind them, punctuated by inhuman shrieks and all too human cries of pain. After what feels like hours of climbing, Mila sees light ahead, natural light filtering through ice. They've reached the glacier's surface. Leo smashes through the thin remaining barrier, and frigid air rushes in, shocking their lungs after the strange warmth of the facility. They emerge onto the ice to find the world transformed. The clear sky from earlier has vanished, replaced by roiling black clouds that shouldn't be possible in the Arctic. The air crackles with electricity, and the wind whips snow into blinding sheets. "The beacon," James gasps, speaking for the first time. "Even failing, it's strong enough to trigger. Atmospheric changes, they're still coming." The partially transformed bodies of Elijah, Lillian, and Jack emerge from the ice behind them, more human now, but still horrifically altered. Their movements are pained, as if their reshaping bodies cause them agony with each step. "Please." Elijah's voice is his own now, though distorted by his still malformed vocal cords. "Help us." Mila starts toward them, but Aurora catches her arm. "Don't trust them," she warns. "The influence may be weakening, but they've been connected to those things for decades. They're not fully themselves anymore." A scream from below interrupts. "Them." Henry and Olivia burst from the opening, bloodied but alive. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grow louder. The charges, Henrik says suddenly, turning to James. Tell me you still have them. James nods weakly, reaching into his preserved expedition jacket to produce several small packages, geological sampling explosives designed to create controlled blasts for collecting deep rock specimens. We need to seal that opening, Henrik explains. Bury the whole facility under ice again. That won't stop what's already started, James argues, pointing to the unnatural storm growing above them. The signal's been broadcasting for decades. They know Earth is ready for their return. One problem at a time, Henrik insists, taking the explosives. We stop what's chasing us, then worry about what's coming. Leo helps James set the charges around the opening, while the others create distance. Henrik's expertise is evident as he arranges the explosives for maximum effect. Fire in the hole, he shouts, activating the remote detonator. The explosion is deafening, sending ice and snow shooting upward before gravity pulls it back down to seal the passage. The ice beneath their feet trembles, cracks spiderwebbing outward from the blast. Sight, the glacier's destabilizing, Aurora warns. We need to get to solid ground. They struggle through deepening snow toward the rocky ridge where the emergency shelter waits. The unnatural storm intensifies with each passing minute. The sky now a churning maelstrom of impossible colors, purples and greens that shouldn't exist in Earth's atmosphere. Look, Olivia points to the horizon, where lights flicker within. The storm clouds, not lightning, something else, something moving with purpose. They're early, James whispers in horror. The builders, they're already here. The partially transformed expedition members collapse to their knees, faces turned upward to the lights in the clouds. Their bodies begin to twist again, responding to the new influence from above. It was all for nothing, Lillian cries, her voice fluctuating between human and other. You can't stop them. No one can. Henry reaches the ridge first, pointing to a metal structure partially covered in snow. The emergency shelter. It has a radio. Maybe we can call for help. But as they approach the shelter, the lights in the storm clouds intensify, converging directly above them. The air itself seems to bend and distort, reality warping under forces it was never designed to contain. Too late, Aurora whispers, clutching her journal to her chest. They're here. The sky tears open. There's no other way to describe it. A vertical rift in reality, edges pulsing with energy that defies classification. Through this cosmic wound, something begins to emerge. Not solid matter, but a shimmering, shifting presence that hurts the human mind to perceive directly. Don't look at it, Aurora shouts, shielding her eyes. Direct perception changes your neural pathways. They stumble the final distance to the emergency shelter, half blind and disoriented. Henry wrenches the door open and they pile inside, slamming. It's shut against the impossible light outside. The shelter's metal walls offer little comfort against what's emerging, but the psychological barrier helps them collect their thoughts. The radio, Myla gasps, locating the emergency communication system. We need to warn someone. Warn them about what? Leo asks, his voice hollow. Ancient alien architects returning to reclaim Earth. Who would believe us? It doesn't matter. If they believe, Henrik says firmly, what matters is creating a record, evidence, knowledge. It's what we failed to do 55 years ago. Outside, the transformed expedition members convulse on the snow, caught between their remaining humanity and the overwhelming presence descending from above. Their cries, part human agony, part alien ecstasy, penetrate even the shelter's walls. Aurora opens her journal to its final pages. I've been preparing for this moment for 55 years, she says, her hand surprisingly steady as she writes. In the stasis chamber I could still think, still plan. They kept our minds active while they drained our life energy to power their beacon. But why keep you alive at all? Olivia asks. Why not just use you up? Because we're not just batteries to them, James explains. We're translators, interpreters. The builders communicate in concepts our minds can't naturally process. The caretakers needed humans to help them understand their master's instructions when they returned. Which is happening right now. Henrik adds grimly. The shelter trembles as something massive moves across the glacier. Through the small, reinforced window, they watch in horror as the ice itself begins to reshape, flowing like liquid before hardening into new, impossible architectures. The transformation spreads outward from the buried facility, accelerating as it goes. It's beginning, Aurora whispers. Terra Reformation. Mila works frantically at the radio, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. This is Arctic research. Station Epsilon. We are witnessing an unprecedented event at coordinates 78.9 degree in, 17.6 degree. This is not a natural phenomenon. I repeat, this is not natural. If anyone receives this message, please record and relay the following information. She looks to the others, who nod encouragingly. Together, they begin documenting everything. The discovery of the Ericsson expedition. Materials, the ancient facility, the caretaker creatures, the returning builders. Aurora dictates from her journal, filling in the historical gaps, while Henrik and James provide technical details about the facility and its technology. They're reshaping the planet to their preferred conditions, James explains into the microphone. The climate change we've been experiencing, it might have been accelerated by human activity, but the initial warming trend was deliberate. They've been terraforming Earth back to pre-Ice Age conditions, making it hospitable for their return. Outside, the storm reaches impossible intensity. The transformed expedition members have disappeared, either destroyed or ascended or simply swept, away by forces beyond human comprehension. The new structures spreading across the ice pulse with internal light, creating a network that grows with frightening speed. Even if no one believes this transmission, Henrik says solemnly, even if we don't survive, someone needs to know what happened, what's happening. The shelter's structural integrity alarms begin to wail as the metal walls bend inward under external pressure. They have minutes, perhaps seconds left. Mila takes the microphone for a final transmission. If anyone finds this recording, we don't know if these beings are hostile in a way humans would understand. They see us as useful components, not as equals or even as threats. They're not conquering Earth. In their perception, they're simply reclaiming what was always theirs. They existed here millions of years before humans evolved. The ceiling begins to peel back, exposing them to the transformed world outside. The air shimmers with particles that shouldn't exist in Earth's atmosphere. This is our final message, Mila continues, her voice steady despite everything. The Ericsson expedition discovered something humanity wasn't ready to face. Now that knowledge falls to whoever receives this transmission. Learn from our experience. Prepare, adapt, because the architects of Earth have returned, and the world as we know it is. The transmission cuts off as the shelter's power fails. The 6 researchers stand together, facing the reshaped sky and the incomprehensible beings descending through it. Aurora clutches her journal, the record of everything that happened and everything they learned. With her final human act, she seals it in a waterproof case and places it inside a metal box designed to withstand extreme conditions. As the shelter disintegrates around them, she slides the box into a crevice in the rock beneath their feet. Someone will find it, she whispers. Someone will understand. The world transforms around them in a blaze of impossible light. 55 years later, in 2069, a climate research team investigates anomalous readings from an Arctic region that defies all natural explanation. The glacier has reformed in patterns that violate known physics, preserving within it a perfect record of what transpired. If only someone knows how to read the messages frozen in ice. At the edge of this transformed zone, a young researcher named Nova Griffin discovers a weathered metal box protruding from recently exposed rock. Inside, perfectly preserved, lies Aurora Hawkins' journal, and humanity's first warning of what awaits as the ice continues to retreat. The final page bears a single line, written in a different hand than the rest of the journal. Mila Bennett's. Last message before the transformation took her: they're not destroying us, they're changing us, and somewhere in that change, perhaps hope remains.